Good afternoon, everyone. Really happy to see so many people here. So, before we start, just want to know, is anyone here aware of this topic, threat modeling? Yeah. Are you guys using it? You're using it. And for your web application, AIML. Okay. Uh, and I think a lot of working professional people are here, so you know what Agile is. Anyone here who does not know what Agile means? You can ask. I'll explain. Okay. Yeah. So basically, these days, when we release a product, we don't wait for it to complete. We release it in versions. So you know how some features come, and then we keep on developing stuff. We keep on fixing. So that's what we call as Agile. So some features keep releasing one after the other. Okay. So that's what Agile is. So if you see all the cloud products these days, they are all basically following the Agile model. And so with Agile, there are a lot of problems that we face. Okay. And well, the biggest problem that we are talking about are the security threats. And that's one of the very important aspects that we need to address. And most of the times we miss out on that. Even though it's the most important and crucial part, we do miss. Okay. So we'll understand what threat modeling is. Before that, let me introduce myself. Arun Pal. I'm senior software engineer in miniOrange currently, and I have around 9 years of experience, around 7 years in cybersecurity domain, and I work in multiple teams. I work with automation, I work with security, I am a developer myself, I work with the UI UX team, and many more. Sometimes I'm even an HR. Okay, so that's a lot. There are a lot of things about me, and I love to explore things. And so let's move ahead and understand what we are going to cover in this session. So we'll be going to understand what threat modeling is and how we will be implementing it basically. I'll take a small example and explain you that. And we'll also understand what kind of challenges we will have on a live product that is like a cloud product basically that's already live. We have users and everything, right? And while implementing, there is one framework. I'll be covering only that framework. There are more, but I'll be focusing specifically on stride model. Okay. And hopefully this is for you all that कुछ तो सीख के जाएंगे यहाँ पे. Okay. So without further ado, let's start. What is threat modeling? Can someone answer? You guys know, come on. Okay. Anyone here who wants to answer? You have a clue on the screen. Come on. Anyone? No? Are you people feeling shy? So threat modeling is just, preparing a proper model, identifying the threats in your application, in your system, whatever it's there, and analyzing their severity and then mitigating the vulnerabilities basically. And then the last part, iterate. Basically, it never stops. Okay. So that's what threat modeling is. And when I learned about this topic, I was really I really loved this because this is very easy to follow, and it also gives you a lot of ideas about how you can start with identifying the problems in your system, and then what you can do. Like, it's a very proper step-by-step model. Okay, so we'll move into that. हम definition पे ज़्यादा time waste नहीं करते हैं. Let's understand the challenges basically. Okay, so it's a continuous changing environment. Because it's agile, everything, or every few days, in weeks, months, we are sending new releases, we are sending something new. There are chances we are actually introducing new bugs or vulnerabilities every time we release something, right? And then complexity of the cloud environment. It's not a simple product, right? There is, you have a whole cloud infrastructure. We just saw all those shenanigans Divya was doing. And then there are lots of places where we can go wrong. We can have some sort of misconfiguration. We can leave something unattended. Okay, there are a lot of things that we can that can go wrong. It's pretty complex. Okay, then lack of security awareness and limited time. Now this is one of the biggest problems when that I have also seen. Like, people do not know. Even sometimes you will wonder, the very basic problems could be neglected. And then again, when we talk about time limited, it's a sprint. I have to finish it quickly. I have to send it, release. Agar late hua to kya bolunga? So this meme is about the same thing, right? That I am more interested in shipping it fast than I am fixing the problems, right? So that's one of the biggest problems that I have myself seen. And believe me, the moment I started talking about introducing threat modeling, my team wanted to kill me. Okay, so next problem is existing user base. Yes, if you do something, if you miss out on something, anything goes wrong, you have a huge set of users basically who are using your product, right? So it could affect them. It could affect your business, right? So you need to be aware of that as well. So these are some of the challenges that I have mentioned here that could come in your way, and you have to really think about things. Okay, when you're actually you already have a product, so you have to worry about all these things. If you are releasing a new product, you can actually start things from the beginning. You don't have to worry about the last part, at least. Okay, and because you are starting everything anew, you can have things going on in between, right? You would be missing a few stuff, but you will have time, right? But we're talking about the product that's already live. Okay, so let's understand what are the steps involved when you are trying to model. Okay, you're preparing a model to analyze the threads in your application. Okay, so there are basic 5 steps. Actually, these are the 5 steps that you will find everywhere, but you can actually make it however you want. This is just like you can take it as a small framework or a reference, and then you can have your own model defined. Okay, so consider this as a reference. Okay, so we'll start with identifying the assets and boundaries. Okay, I'll explain all of this. We'll go step by step, understanding how you'll be modeling. Okay, the second would be identifying threads. We are going to use stride model to identify the threads. Then the third would be prioritizing the threads. So whatever threads you have identified, you also have to find which ones are more vulnerable, which could impact more. So you will be identifying them, and then you will be defining and implementing the mitigation steps, basically what you can do, right, about them. And the last one is validate and iterate. Okay, I'll come to each of these points and explain when we are on those area. Okay, so let's move to the first one. Okay, you guys recognize this thing? What is it? I heard someone say it. DFD? Yeah. This is a DFD model, data flow diagram, basically. Okay, what it represents is simply interaction and the data flow of a product. Okay, so you can see there is a user will be requesting. This is a very basic example I'm taking. Your system could be very complex, but it's always suggested break it into smaller parts. I'm taking a smaller part here. Let's say login, and this is not our login. कोई ये मत बोलना miniOrange का है. ठीक है. So this is a login flow. Okay, so there is a user. Okay, user will be interacting with your server, your backend. Your backend is going to fetch data from your database. And so these are kind of the notations that you represent. User with a rectangular box, databases or any stored, let's say you have a message queues or anything else. You will be using these lines. Okay, between the lines, this kind of design. Okay, so those are like the stored information, basically. Okay, and double circles means process. Okay, okay. So in this model, you can see that there is some flow. Okay, first part we need to do here is identify the assets. So these are your assets. Okay, whatever is included in your flow whatever is being, like whatever you are interacting with, who is interacting with, all those information we call as assets. Okay. After the assets are identified, what we need to do is we need to put boundaries. Okay. Not boundaries, trust boundaries. Okay. What are trust boundaries basically? So anywhere you see some privilege changes, or let's say authenticated, for something you can access without authenticating, and something you can access with authentication. I've forgotten the word, so I'm just using the definition and example. When you do that, basically it creates a trust boundary there. Okay. So in this situation, when user is interacting with your system and trying to log in, right? So he is going to authenticate, right? So there would be a change in his state and trust levels, right? So trust level change would be there. So there comes a trust boundary. And then again, we talk about the database. Okay, here my database, when my application is going to interact with my database, there will again be a trust boundary. Why? Because my application should have limited access to the database. Okay, database is very important, right? Because actually your whole application depends on it, your business depends on it, because everything is there, right? Now, so what we'll do is we'll define the trust boundaries in those two places. My bad, it goes there actually. Okay. So what happens is you will define the trust boundaries first. So in this example, you have the trust boundaries. Trust boundary 1, we'll just label it 1 and 2. Fine. A very common example. Okay. So you have identified that, and moving to the next step, we will just understand what stride is. Stride is just a full form of these words, basically. Spoofing, S stands for spoofing, like you can impersonate users or something, right? Fake identities, if your system is vulnerable to that. Tampering, basically modifying whatever data you have. Let's say some API call is going and you can change the data in between. Okay. Repudiation is like logging. So let's say when you're trying to access something, you're trying to modify something, you log certain information that user did something or not. So repudiation is basically missing those logging information. So this leads to the word I'm using here, denying actions. I'll explain how that works. Okay. Then information disclosure. When sometimes there are various scenarios. Let's say when you are sharing too much information with the user, or user can easily access certain information, right? That could lead to information disclosure. Or there is a very good example. I'm not sure how many people know that. When you put your username in a website and then you put a password, if it tells you at that point that your password is incorrect, and it actually gives you an indication that username is correct, that's information disclosure. Okay. This is something a lot of people miss. Okay. Why is that important actually? Can anyone tell? What's that? Yeah, I mean, you're telling me this one is correct, so I can now start brute forcing that account, because now I know this is the username, right? So that's some information you gave me, right? Then there is denial of service. We all know, I guess. Then elevation of privileges. So let's say you have an API. Okay. Again, same example. Your API only checks if you are authenticated or not, and that API is performing some sort of admin functionalities, but you managed to get access to that. Okay. So you were able to elevate your privileges. Okay. Because I was not checking for your privilege level, right? So that's where elevation of privilege comes. So this is your stride, the points in the strides by which you actually identify the threads on each boundaries. Okay. So the boundaries that we created, we will put this stride model on it, and will mark that what is it vulnerable to. Okay. We'll come to that. Before that, I have something. I move. It's not working. Okay. Uh, who wants to play a game? By far, I'm loving this audience because I see a lot of people interacting. So let's interact more. Okay. So I want you people to divide yourself into two groups. How about the people this side of the camera and that side of the camera? This side we have attackers, that side we have defenders. Attackers have to tell me in a login page what kind of exploits you can find. Okay. And defenders have to tell me how you will defend that. Okay. Anyone? Come on. Yeah. Default credentials. Okay, so your application has some default credentials that anyone can use, right? Any suggestion for that? Don't. Yes, the best answer. Never use default credentials. Okay, anything else? Injection attacks. Anything specific you can mention? SQL injection. Right. Input validations, parameterized queries. Anything else? Yes? That's the problem. But what kind of attack I can do with that? Brute force. Good. Yep. Capture is there and then putting that rate limiting basically. Right? I have a very good audience today and I'm loving it. So without wasting any time, actually have some of these scenarios noted down. I was expecting if people did not talk, I'll have something to talk about. So I'll just cover some of this. So I have put them on the basis of our stride points. Okay. So spoofing, I can impersonate a user. I can have some sort of stolen credentials from somewhere or something, and I can log in into his account, right? So this is one problem. How would you solve this problem? So the one above, you guys know already, I guess. Okay, you can like we know that you could find some credentials. Let's say you have weak passwords, or if your credentials are leaked somewhere, like people can get that. Yeah, that can also be exploited. That is also a problem. Now that will come under the spoofing part. Okay. So to prevent that, you could have something like MFA, right? MFA in place. So even if I have my password lost or something, I will have some extra layer of security there, right? So this could be a solution, right? And for strong password and other options, okay, like blocking the account. Let's say if someone is trying to brute force, you block them after 3 attempts, so they can't actually exploit that problem. Okay, moving to the next one, tampering. Okay, I can intercept the communication between the user and the server and modify the login request. Okay, this one is very like related to login. Most of the time, you will have this kind of problems in after you have logged in and accessing the system. You will be most vulnerable to this problem, tampering, because you can do a lot of things with the information that is available there, right? So what we'll do about the tampering part? Okay, so this was more related to MITM, basically man in the middle. Someone was able to like get information in between. I did not have a secure connection or something. This was the assumption. So I did not say this, but when you're modeling, you really need to think even at the very basic level. Like you would be saying, HTTPS to hoga hi na? Nahi hoga. Assume karo. Go from the very basic part and start discussing from there. So the thing that we were doing in this room right now is called brainstorming. You'll be having a team. They will be discussing all these problems. They will be putting these things, labeling them, and then working on it. Okay. And you have to really get to a point where you will be actually picking every small things that will come to your mind. Assume you don't have anything, because the moment you will assume you have, you're going to miss something. Okay. So so the next, so yeah. So let's say we have HTTPS setup and everything. Okay. And yeah, server side validations to prevent tampering, right? Someone answered that here. Yeah. Now this one, I could deny I did something, right? This is the part of repudiation where I said logging is very important. You did something and you left. I don't know who did it, and I can't actually say that you did, and you can simply say, I don't know, right? Because there was no logging. And when I say logging, you need to log some extra information as well, like the IP, the username, maybe location, whatever you want to log. Based on the system and the criticality it could have, you should be logging enough information to identify the problem, right? So that's what the answer is, right? You could have those information around logging and whatever actions you perform. Next is information disclosure. I could exploit the login page and gain access to sensitive information such as password hashes or personal user data. So like I said, you can do some things like you can get to some area, some page, and you are able to get certain information that you should not have, right? So that's information disclosure. So you are getting that information, right? I think this was a problem with Facebook a few years ago, where you could actually see the phone numbers of people, right? So that was a very big threat because people started getting calls and threats from internet bullies, right? So that led to a very big chaos, and so they decided to remove the phone numbers, right? So we could mask message and ensure no sensitive data is exposed. Just like the example I gave earlier, I won't tell you what's wrong. Username, password, could be anything, right? I will give you error even if one thing is wrong. I will not tell you that password is wrong. Even if user is wrong, I'll let you go to the next page, make you enter the password, then I'll tell you everything is wrong. Okay? So you don't know. Denial of service, simple. We all know this. It's pretty famous. Bombarding the pages with several requests, so your service goes down, right? So you can do what? You can have CAPTCHA, rate limiting, have IP blocking mechanism, etc. Right? And now here is your second step. Now we understood the stride model. We understood how we were talking about the threats and what could be what could be the ways to prevent it. We actually covered two things. Now we'll put it in the steps basically. The second part here will be preparing a model. Now this is what I am doing right now. You could do it in any way. Okay, there are tools basically that you can use which help you to do everything in one place, document everything. So here, too small. Can I zoom it? Okay. Yeah, I hope it's visible, right? So I've labeled the TB01 there, okay? The trust boundary 1, the trust boundary 2. So whatever trust boundaries I had identified in my DFD model, okay, I am going to map them with the stride points, okay? So there is spoofing, tampering, repudiation, information disclosure, denial of service, and elevation of privileges, okay? So all of the points are labeled here. Now I will do what? I'll find what my system is weak against, okay? And I'll put them here as the vulnerability. I'll mark them as the vulnerabilities, and then later I'll calculate how many vulnerabilities are there in that particular boundary, okay? So whatever we discussed, just like that, I've put some, I put some information there. It's the same thing what we were discussing, like having 2FA in place, logging information, okay, having rate limiting, etc. Those information are put there, okay. After this, once this is done, you will be like marking them. Let's say you give them points or something, or you put them like how many vulnerabilities are there, right? So you have some sort of metrics to tell you like how weak your system is to these points. Now, okay, it's dead. No, it is. Yep. Okay. So after this point, what we'll do is we will see. Pardon. Okay. So once we have identified the issues and vulnerabilities and we have marked them and labeled them, we'll move to the next step where we will try to identify the threat level of this. Okay. So basically how severe, ये भी नहीं चलेगा क्या? हाँ यार, जादू. Okay. So I'm just using a very simple design here. There is also another model called Dread. You can read about it. It's much more used. This is simple, just impact versus likelihood chart. Okay, this is one way. Now you can have this chart grown into bigger number and have more parameters. I'm just using low, medium, and high. Okay, you can have like very likely, severe, critical, world ending, whatever. So you can have a chart like that, and then you go with this, that the level of impact versus the likelihood. Likelihood is like how easily that can happen, right? The probability of it. There could be certain attacks that you have identified that's not gonna happen. Chances, right? So that way you will put all of those, like give them number. Let's say you say low, medium, high, critical. Okay, you have it there. Now you, whatever vulnerabilities you identified, you label them based on these parameters, how easily that will happen or not. So with this, you can actually, now which ones you will be working on first, which ones you can hold, or maybe just let there be. Okay, some things may not be actually problems sometimes, and we also know some bugs can be features. So next one is define and implement mitigations. Okay, so after identifying the problems and their risk level, what we need to do is we need to define what we can do about them. Okay, simple answer. We already discussed what we can do about things, right? So we had certain answers, what we can do about that. So that's just what this step covers. What steps you will be taking to prevent them or lower the risk, basically. Okay, so basically understanding the risk, defining the mitigation steps, and implement controls. Implement controls is basically what you can do to prevent them or something. Okay, and the last step is validate and iterate. Okay, what is validate and iterate now? उसमें से read मत करो please. Anyone, just say whatever comes to your mind without reading. Pardon?
Parameter.
Yeah, that's actually a part of it. That's there. Then there is more. Anything else? Yeah.
To validate all the steps that we have, both the legacy and also check whether all are working properly. That to get the process starting from the beginning.
Okay. So validate part is that we now need to validate whatever mitigation steps we define. Are they working or not? So one thing is we'll try them out, right? We'll try to attack. We'll do those similar attacks. We'll try to identify if they work or not. Okay. So that's one thing you can do, right? Then there is also a part when we are talking about agile system and you're implementing this. You'll also have something called retrospect, right? Sprint retrospect that we call. Once your sprint is finished, we talk about the problems that happened, some other things. That is where also you actually get to validate your model. Whatever you did, was that helpful? Was that good or not? Okay, did you miss something? Those kind of things can be covered, and all of that you call as your validate part. So yeah, so there is something around like you can have your teams who can attack and prevent and identify those things. And when we say iterate, all of this process we'll be doing again and again, right? That's simple, right? So validate. Yep. Okay, now threat modeling in agile. Okay, थोड़ा सा agile के बारे में भी समझ लेते हैं. उसमें हम लोग threat modeling को जब इंट्रोड्यूस कर रहे हैं, क्या एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हैं, राइट? So when we're talking about threat modeling, it is not something we need to treat as, one-time thing or like not important. This should actually be a part of your stories. You have stories, right? You mark them done. When it's at what stage? Testing or something, right? You should not do that. You should actually follow this, and once this is complete, so basically including your story done, your testing, everything, and then your threat modeling is also verified, that is when you should actually conclude it as done. Okay, specifically for critical systems where there is a lot of sensitive data involved. you should not skip this step. Okay, so this would become a part of your story's definition of done. Okay, otherwise you will be actually treating it as nothing important. Okay, um, lightweight threat models. Now, just like I explained, I have my product already live. I cannot just sit here today and think about preparing the whole model for my whole product and everything fixed, right? It will take, I don't know how long, years, and it will keep evolving in between. So I'll have more problems. I don't know. So rather start with smaller areas. Okay. Let's say we took a small login section. You can take a small login section. You can take some sort of saving areas, like saving configuration or whatever. One small area at a time, and you can work on that. It's easier to model a very small area than taking a whole big complex section, right? Then this actually point is something I have heard a lot of people say, having security champions. Have you heard this term? It sounds fancy, but it works. Yeah. So security champions is basically a dedicated team, basically, who is going to, to act as the adversary or defending around the problems. Okay. They are the ones who are going to, find the problems in your product. Okay. They are going to challenge you. They're going to tell you the steps. So you can have multiple people in this team who can take care of various things. Just like we had attackers, defenders, you will have someone who is going to think in the business perspective and tell you stuff like what could go wrong if you take this long route or something. Just an example. Okay. So you will have multiple people, and we call them as security champions. Okay. So it's a team that will be helping to advocate for security during planning. This team is going to focus specifically on the security aspects. They don't care about whether your release goes or not. They care about it should be secure. Okay, so that's their important job. Okay, and automate where possible. Now we are modeling one area today, and this is an agile system. Tomorrow something else is gonna change. Are you going to go back and do that area again? Let's say login page. Are you going to go back and do the login page again? No. So you should try to automate things. Okay, whatever steps you found, maybe you can have those attacks automated, and you can run them the next time and identify if they are still working for you or not, right? So automate whatever is possible so that you can avoid delays as well, because we are talking about sprints, right? We have limited time, so we need to somewhere start and do automations. Okay. Some best practices. My God, the font is so small. So shift left. You guys know?
It's about
Yeah. So there was a session today as well around shift left. Basically, what it says is have security in your SDLC as soon as possible, mostly in the planning phase itself, right? Don't wait for it to release and then think about the security aspect. Think as soon as you can. So that's what we call as shift left. So it's basically a diagram, and that's how the name came, that it goes in this diagram. Like you go requirement gathering, then there is designing and stuff like that, and then release. So it's the left side that you want to shift to. Okay. So after that, continuous modeling. Okay. Just like I said, you don't do it just once. You don't do it sometimes. You do it continuous. Okay. You don't stop modeling, doing the modeling. Okay. You use established frameworks like Stride. There is also Pasta, and there are other actually listed threads that you can find, which you can use to identify the vulnerabilities in your trust boundaries, basically. Okay, so you should use them because there are some things that are already there. You don't need to really worry about finding new stuff because you already have some data. You just need to put them in place, right? And that will make tasks easier for you. Just like we had the Stride model, we had it was easy for us to identify what could go wrong. If I'm just going through, is spoofing possible? Okay, just like that. Okay, after that, automate security. Yep, that's the same thing we discussed. You should have some things automated to save time and to repeat them continuously, and build a security culture. Now this is the most important part. I think I said it in the beginning, that people are not aware of security standards, right? Security, building a security culture is very important. How you can do it? You can have training sessions, you can teach people, and you can tell them how you can include security practices in your day-to-day work. Okay, you don't, when we talk about securing the whole product, it's a huge product, right? An agile product, it's live, it's pretty big, we know that, right? 2 or 3 people won't be able to fix it and do things, right? So if your developers are aware of the secure practices and they know where threat could come, they can themselves do it when they're working on the stories, right? So you need to start preparing people where things could go wrong. You tell everyone, every individual involved in your development process, basically, that what you can do. Okay, so the best thing here is train them. Okay, teach them how to how to avoid those problems. Okay, I think conclusions and takeaways. Now this is more what you guys would say, what you are going to take away. मैंने तो 3 point list कर दिए. So threat modeling is a proactive and essential process for securing cloud-based product. By integrating into agile workflow, it ensures security evolves with the product. Okay, so basically what we are talking about, when you start modeling everything and do it every time with every sprint, the security will also evolve with your product. Okay, you're doing development and you're doing the security as well. I have a very good example for this. I just found this on internet. If your door is broken, would you be more concerned about renovating your kitchen? Right? है ना relatable? वैसे ही. So you need to start thinking about that security part from the start. Start small, prioritize risk, and iterate continuously to protect your live system. Any questions? Yes?
So here's a big agile ways. Maybe, 2 weeks daily on cycle detect what the values. Now, I see now.
Right. So this thing, when we talk about, this comes when you're talking about in the business perspective. I can't delay my sprints, right? You'll have this thought, I can't delay my sprints, I'll have to send these stories, right? So basically you are going to feel like I should compromise on that part because it's gonna take time, right? If I'll go modeling that new feature you are working on, which probably some customers need, you're telling me that no, first do the threat modeling, right? So that will take time. So how about, just like I said, while you're developing, you can actually do these things. If your team is aware of this, it will initially take time, obviously, because we are going to start something new. There would be a lot of friction in the team itself and the management and everything, but you'll have to include it at some point, because how long do you think you can ignore this? So that's there. You can plan your sprints in a different manner. Let's say, how do you pick your stories basically? Do you already have a set stories that you pick, or you let your developers work on certain things? When they are ready, then you put them in the sprint? What is your method of picking the sprint? So you can do in that way. Let them do the modeling basically. Okay, so that's my suggestion. Now on you. Yeah. Anything else? No? If you like the session, please leave a feedback.